Some people rock and some people roll. Some will make you giggle right down to your soul. So talk to the world and introduce them to you. And look at me now, I'm on Barbara and you. You gotta take a step inside the shoes of another. Get to know your neighbor, get to know one another. So talk to the world and introduce them to you. And look at me now, I'm on Barbara and you.
Good evening and welcome to the Barbara and You Show. I'm delighted you could join us, and I'm delighted to be back home. I was away last week and things carried on very nicely without me. That happens, I don't have to be here. But I want to welcome you to the Workers Credit Union studio at FATV. And again, I say thank you for tuning in with us. And let me tell you who will be my guest at 7:30. I'll be joined by Pastor Phil Sabula, who is a local pastor, very well known in this area, and he's also an author, and we're going to talk about the books he wrote. But my first guest is someone I've known for quite a few years now, and as a matter of fact, both guests tonight have been on the show at least once before, maybe 2 or 3 times. But my first guest is Scherrie Keating. Hi, Scherrie.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
I am fine, and as I said, you're very well known in the area because you're one of those people who supports and joins a lot of different groups, and I see you at chamber meetings, I see you at a lot of different events prior to COVID. And it's just so great now when we can actually be with people again.
Absolutely. I actually had an in-person networking event this morning, and it was just great to actually see people again. And you know, it's great that we have Zoom and we have that ability, but it's also so nice to see people in person again. And it's great to see you.
Well, thank you. You too. And I felt the same way the first time I got back in the studio. I've had enough Zooms at my kitchen table.
I hear you.
So getting back into the studio. But introducing you, Scherrie, it's hard to know what to say about you because you have quite a few titles and quite a few organizations that you belong to. I know that you are a registered nurse. I know that you have your own business called Diabetes Care. And you've been doing that since 2016, was it?
Can you believe it'll be my 5-year anniversary in September?
And that may have been the first time I interviewed you when you were starting that business.
It was. I've been on your show a few times,
right.
But yes, when I started Diabetes Care Consulting, yes. Yeah.
And let's just get a little background as to why you started that business. And as I said, you are still a registered nurse.
I am, yes. I started Diabetes Care Consulting because I have been in the field of diabetes and cardiovascular disease my whole nursing career, and which spans now 38 plus years. And I actually never knew that we could prevent type 2 diabetes. I cared for thousands of patients that had type 2 diabetes, and we always talked about how are we going to manage your diabetes to prevent complications, but we never really talked about research that you could prevent type 2 diabetes. And so when I found that out, it was like an aha moment for me. And I actually literally saw an iceberg picture. That was my moment. And it was a picture of an iceberg with the tip of the iceberg that had 34 million people that had diabetes, but under the tip of the iceberg, there were 88 million more that had prediabetes. And I had never heard the term prediabetes before. And so I knew I needed to find out more. So I actually became certified in diabetes and certified in diabetes prevention. There's a CDC National Diabetes Prevention Program that people with at-risk or living with prediabetes can go and attend, and given the tools to prevent type 2 diabetes by up to 71%.
That's amazing.
It's an amazing statistic. And you know what, Barbara? The honest truth is it doesn't take a lot of work to prevent type 2 diabetes. You know I'm going to say it's going to be lifestyle changes. But the research that backs this program is that if you lose 7% of your current body weight through healthy eating and exercise, you can lower your risk up to 71% of developing type 2 diabetes. That's unbelievable.
So obesity is one of the really big, no pun intended, one of the really big problems.
It really is, and you know what? It is the driver of what they call insulin resistance. So prediabetes, diabetes is a disease of insulin resistance. And what that means is, so insulin, picture a cell, and so say you just had lunch. you're going to be digesting the food that you ate. And while you're doing that, you're breaking your food down into sugar. Now that sugar needs to go into your cells to be used for fuel, okay? And the key to unlock the cell door is insulin. And so when you eat a meal and digest your food and create sugar, there's hormones in your gut that signal to the pancreas, which is the organ that actually makes insulin. It will start to hyperproduce insulin. Insulin will travel through your bloodstream, will attach to the outside of the cell, and then the cell will be, so to speak, unlocked, and sugar will go into the cell, and it will be used for fuel. So that's the way our bodies are made to work. When you have a condition called insulin resistance, you're still digesting your food, you're making the sugar, the hormones in your gut are still telling the pancreas to hyperproduce insulin. But when it comes time for insulin to attach to the wall of the cell to unlock the cell door, there's a problem there. So what happens is the sugar doesn't float into the cell, and instead the sugar goes through your bloodstream and it attacks your small and large blood vessels. And that's why people with insulin-resistant diseases like diabetes, prediabetes, they're at risk for a lot of other associated health conditions like eye disease, kidney disease, nerve disease, heart disease, strokes. So the whole idea is that the research shows that to decrease insulin resistance, if you lower your body weight by lowering the amount of bad fats in your diet, so watching, meat that comes from animals, so animal products, processed food, so eating more of a Mediterranean sort of diet where you're eating less processed foods, you're eating whole grains, you're eating low-fat dairy, you're eating fruits and vegetables and lean protein, you can, by healthy eating and exercising 150 minutes a week, so 30 minutes 5 days a week, you can reduce your risk by up to 71%. Those over 60 get the 71% reduction. The others, we have about 58%. So, and you continue to do that, and the research shows that 10, 15 years down the road, you're still getting benefit of preventing diabetes if you're living that lifestyle.
Now, I know you're a cancer survivor.
I am.
And God bless you that you're through that.
Yes.
But do you have or have you had diabetes?
No, I don't. But like I said, my nursing career, I actually started the diabetes self-management education program at Health Alliance in Leominster. And I have cared for patients with diabetes my whole career. I was working in the ICU. I managed cardiac rehab. So all of my nursing career, I was a telephonic diabetic nurse. I actually cared for people with diabetes. I saw the devastation. My great-grandmother had diabetes. I didn't know her, but I have a family history of diabetes. But the whole reason that I started my company was that I thought, wow, I've been in the field for, at the time it was 33 years. I didn't know that you could prevent diabetes. What about people that don't have the experience that I have? We need to offer screening and prevention education. It's so easy. I really want your viewers to understand it literally takes 1 to 2 minutes to find out if you are at risk for prediabetes. Simple. It's a questionnaire. There's 7 questions. You can do it electronically. You can do it, written on a piece of paper. It is the American Diabetes Association risk test. It's called the Prediabetes risk test. And all you have to do, you can go on my website. You can go to a website called doihaveprediabetes.org, or you can go to my company website, which is Diabetes Care with a K, consulting.com, and you just click the link that says take the risk test. You answer these 7 questions, and if you score 5 or higher, you likely have prediabetes now.
I'm smiling because I remember taking that test after I first met you.
Oh,
I was okay. I got
did you
good
get the
results.
good news? Okay, that's great.
But now, it's hard to regiment your diet. But do you, even though you're okay, I have a feeling you stick to all those things you just told us about.
Well, you know what? I'm a national keynote speaker, and I can't get in front of a crowd of people and tell them to do something, or even one-on-one with a patient, or even a friend or family member. I feel like for myself, I need to walk the talk. You know what I mean? Like, I need to do what I'm telling you to do because I know the benefits of doing that. I do live with a chronic disease. It is not diabetes. I have Crohn's disease. Okay. So I actually recently am going on my own journey of becoming gluten-free and dairy-free, which I'll tell you has been quite a journey. I started a few weeks ago, and it's very challenging, just like having diabetes is very challenging. But I believe that it's worth it. And so, you know, whether you are at risk for diabetes or you're living with diabetes, it's worth putting the time into your health. The old saying, your health is your greatest wealth, it truly is. And you and I both, as cancer survivors, know that your health is your greatest wealth. And so it's worth investing the time in yourself and your health.
And I know there's other things we want to get onto, but I want to just bring this up. I said I was away last week. We were at Disney World, and I was just continually amazed at how many really obese people I saw there. And also, when you dine out anywhere, the food comes, and I always think, only in America do they serve you these huge portions, and other countries it's not like that.
I know, that's why the Mediterranean diet is like the #1 diet. And you know, really, we all should be following that. We don't have to have diabetes, heart disease. Everyone should be following a healthy, diet, moving more towards plant-based. I'm actually trying to do that myself, moving towards a plant-based diet. You're right, we have an obesity epidemic. I'm writing a new program. So I offer, my company, I speak nationally, and I also offer continuing ed credit programs for nurses, social workers, case managers. I offer community programs, and now I'm into corporate wellness. And I'm writing a new program, and it's about the inactivity epidemic. So the CDC came out with some statistics, Barbara, that blew my mind. 50% of the adults living in the United States do not meet the physical activity requirement to prevent chronic disease. So 1 in 2 already have one chronic disease, and 50% of those have 2 or more. So we aren't doing something right in this country. We really have to get moving. We have to exercise. We have to eat better. And just take it a small step at a time. We don't have to, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? We don't have to do a total life change. We can just start with one thing, and then we can add on to that. It's just getting started is the important piece.
Right. And I think when I would see these obese people, I would think once they've let themselves go that long, it's harder and harder to start a program. But also, what did you just say, 30 minutes of walking 5 times a week? And that's not a lot to do.
No, and you know what? There's research that says you don't have to do the 30 minutes all at once. You could do 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and 10 minutes 3 times a day at a moderate pace. So they're not seeing benefit under 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is the minimum that you should do in one session. You literally have to get your heart pumping a little bit. So a moderate walk. And they're not even saying you need to go to the gym. You don't have to buy equipment.
Right.
And I always tell patients that God gave you 2 legs, just use them. And if you can't use them, use your arms. You don't have to buy any equipment. If you don't have a safe area at your home, you have the inside of your home. Walk up and down the stairs. If you don't have stairs, walk room to room. There is ways to do this that don't require any financial burden. And the payoff is huge.
Now, you very quickly gave your website, but for our viewers, and I know when I'm watching a show, I need to hear things more than once. So how do people get in touch with you? If they're listening to you now and they're like, wow, this lady knows what she's talking about. I knew that. She's making a lot of sense, and they want more information. How would people get a hold of you?
So they can email me. My email is diabetes care. So the word care is spelled with a K, and then consulting at gmail.com. And then my website is diabetes care, again with a K, consulting.com. And it has all of my programs. It has, I do personal health coaching. You know what I really want to do? I want to get kids involved in education about prevention of chronic disease and diabetes, because the statistics came out a few years ago that 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 young adults and adolescents already had prediabetes, Barbara. I don't know about you, but I have 6 grandkids, and that statistic scares me.
And I've been, helping a church with the children's groups and know children that have diabetes, and they learn how to manage their injections, or they've got the little device on their side. But to say prevent it, it's not just taking care of yourself after you've been diagnosed. There's some ways to prevent it.
So when you're talking about the kids with the pumps, you're probably talking about kids with type 1 diabetes.
Probably.
Which is a autoimmune sort of disease, and their pancreas is not working. I'm talking about type 2 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes used to be a disease of older adults. Now it is trickling down into our young adults and adolescents.
Oh, okay.
And so that's a very different conversation, and that is preventable. Type 1 isn't, but type 2 is.
Okay,
So I just want to clarify that for the viewers.
Well, and yes, thank you for doing that, because I am the worst about remembering medical facts. But you also, when we were talking in the green room before we went on the air, you were talking about how things have changed, how COVID has changed everybody's lifestyle.
Yes.
And I just have a motto: anything that goes wrong, just blame it on the pandemic.
There you go.
But
I like that motto.
But what changes have you seen with the people you help, and have you been able to be in touch with people? Were you Zooming like I was Zooming?
I'm zoomed out. I don't know about
Me
you, Barbara,
too.
but I'm
Yeah.
so zoomed out. But it's kind of a good and a bad thing, because I've been able to meet people from different countries and be involved in groups that I would have never been involved in. But also it's hours and hours of sitting. And as I was telling you in the green room, that we have an inactivity epidemic. And COVID hasn't helped. I think electronics have been a problem now for a while. I look at my grandkids and all their electronics and what they want to do with their time. Remember when we were kids, we were outside as much as we could be. But today the world is different. We have safety issues being outside. There's a lot of times both parents are working. Things are just so different. Now we have all these electronics, and so we're much more sedentary now. So when we're sedentary, it affects our body in the way it functions. It increases insulin resistance, the way the insulin attaches to that cell to control our blood sugars. And so it increases risk of these insulin-resistant diseases. We store fat when we're inactive. Our blood doesn't flow properly, it's slower. We end up with hip problems and joint pain. We end up with mental health issues. Anxiety, depression, it leads to cognitive decline. There's so many issues. So there's a campaign to move your way through the CDC. So they're trying to get people to do that 30 minutes, 5 days a week of exercise. And the big thing is that when we're sitting at the computer hour after hour after hour, we should be getting up every 5 minutes and taking a movement break. So
every 5 minutes?
I mean, we should, no, I apologize. Every hour, we should be taking a 5-minute movement break.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we could do when we're at home. We could have a standing, desk. When we're watching TV, we could be standing. When we're talking on the phone, we could be walking. When we're at our businesses, we could have walking meetings. There actually is a few networking meetings now that are walking in network. And so we're moving our bodies more. And so we just have to move our bodies, because there are so many health consequences to not moving our bodies. And there's so many chronic diseases. And we really need to make changes in our lifestyle. And all the diseases that we talk about, heart disease, we talk about Alzheimer's disease, we talk about dementia, we talk about stroke, we talk about diabetes, they all come down to lifestyle. What are we eating? What are we, how are we keeping our brain active? How are we keeping our body active? Remember, what's good for our body is good for our brain. So if you're eating healthy for your body and you're exercising for your body, your brain is also a muscle, your heart is a muscle. You got to work it in order to improve it.
And if you're sitting around brooding and worrying about things, stress affects every disease. Everything that's wrong with you is going to be magnified if you have stress in your life.
The cortisol, think about the caveman and the stress response, and the way when cavemen encountered a stressful event, they had to do two things. They either had to fight or flee. So their body had to get ready to do that. So the cortisol levels increased, their blood sugars went up, their heart started racing. Well, when we're under chronic stress, the same thing is happening to us. And it's increasing our risk of a lot of chronic diseases. So, there's been a lot of mental health issues that have come out of COVID for people. It's been a very challenging time for so many people. And I think we're going to see the long-term ramifications of, what we've been through in terms of health in people in their future.
Well, Scherrie, knowing how enthusiastic you are about what you do, and it's wonderful, the people that you can help, and I know what kind of an active woman you are. Do you have any tips for us on handling stress, time management? How do you manage to run your own business and still be involved in so many other activities, being a national speaker? Do you have any help you can give us?
It's funny you're asking me that question. So I struggle with it the same way everyone else does, but I listened to a webinar last night that something he said to me really hit me. He said it was this 5 and 5 rule. What that means is when you're dealing with a stressful situation, if you can look out 5 years and it's not going to make a difference, then only spend 5 minutes worrying about it. Isn't that a great philosophy? I love that. It just really hit me last night. And so I like to tell people you can't change the past, so why are we dwelling on it? You can't predict the future, so why are you dwelling on it? All you have is today. It's a gift. It's a present. And so live in the moment. Try to have fun, because we're supposed to be having fun in our life, right? And for me, I have a home office, so I really have to shut the door to shut it off, because otherwise it's too accessible to keep going back to work. You know, have a balanced life. You've got your family, you've got your work, you've got church. There's just so many different things. You don't want to just stay focused on one thing. There's help out there if you can't deal with stress on your own. So use the resources that are out there, because there's a lot of resources out there. You know, get in your circle, talk to people. Don't keep it in, because, you know, keeping it in is not going to be good for your mental health, for your physical health, and, you know, it's not going to bring you to the place that you want to go. So for me, it's a challenge, just like everybody else. Trust me, I am healthy, but, you know, I'm not perfect. So a quote, you know, that I always tell people, it's progress, not perfection. So we're looking for small progress. So we don't want you to be perfect, but we want you to keep moving in the right direction.
Well, and you have to make sensible decisions, because I happen to know, and I'll not reveal all the ways, but you were offered a very nice job that you would have liked to accept, but you had to realize, my schedule's pretty full right now. So, I mean, you have to really choose what's more important, and what you, and that wasn't an easy decision for you.
And sometimes you don't choose the right thing, and then you have to look back and say, okay, I didn't make the right decision, but I can correct that.
That's right.
And sometimes you have to do that, but really thinking about your decisions and really prioritizing what is important to you. What is important to Barbara? What is important to myself? And then really, if you have to, write it down. Okay, these are my priorities, and these are not so my priorities, and being able to say no. It's so hard to say no, isn't it? Because you just want to be there for everybody, but you know what? Sometimes you can't. And self-care is not being selfish. Self-care is taking care of yourself. And sometimes if you don't take care of yourself, you have nothing to give to anyone else. So self-care is really important. And plus, as a parent and a grandparent, I feel like I'm setting an example. You know, I want to be healthy to live longer and healthier, and I want to be happy doing that. And I can tell you that cancer, as you know, kind of puts things in perspective.
It does, yes.
And so you kind of learn to prioritize, but I don't want people to have cancer in order to learn to prioritize. So you just really have to think about what's important to you, and do you really need to say yes to everything? And, you know, I have my faith too, which plays a big part in my life too. And so I don't know, that's a hard question to answer, and I probably didn't answer it, but I struggle with it like everybody else.
Well, and I was thinking, when you talked about this 5-minute rule that you heard on the webinar, I always go back to the serenity prayer, and I can't quote it exactly, but this thing about having the wisdom to know the difference on what you can change and what you cannot change.
Right.
And if you cannot change it,
you have to let it go.
You have to let it go.
Yeah, I say let go and let God take over, because once I'm done trying, and I know I should have let God take it at the beginning, but you know, we are human beings, so let go and let God is my saying. But yeah, it's hard. It's really, really hard to prioritize. But from everything I've been through, I realize that health, you have to have your health. You can have everything. You can have money. You can have material things. But if you don't have your health, how are you going to enjoy it?
Well, and also you mentioned the mental illnesses. And there's example after example of people who are rich and famous and celebrities who aren't happy people. And
Right.
there's a long list.
Yeah. And you know what else? I like to surround myself with people that are positive. You know, that was a hard lesson for me to learn, because do you ever have those friends or family that kind of just zap all of your energy mentally and physically? So sometimes you just have to say, you know what? I need to put a circle around me of positive people that feed me what I need. And sometimes that's really hard. It's not saying you don't love them, but it's saying that, you know, they're not healthy for you to be around as much. And I think that's really important for people to look at their circle and, you know, what friends, what they're bringing to the table as well. Because, you know, if you're around negative people, it just goes into your head and fills your thought and then changes your attitude. And, you know, when I speak, I always talk about mindset and attitude and your why. And I believe that nothing physically changes until something mentally changes. So you have to change your mindset and your attitude before your health changes. So you got to flip the switch. And once you do that, then you'll be successful in changing your behaviors and your lifestyle habits to be healthy for the long run. It's not a sprint. It's not something that happens overnight, and I think people want that quick fix. We're all about quick fixes today. We live such a fast lifestyle, but you know what? If you want something to last, it's slow and steady process. You know, my husband's always talking about the turtle wins the race.
Yeah.
And it's so true, right? So you just have to remember that, you know, you didn't get where you are in one day. It's a process. You're going to have ups and downs. It's not a straight path. There's going to be a lot of diversions. But you know what? You're just going to do what you can. You're going to stay the course. You're going to wake up tomorrow, and every day is a new opportunity, Barbara.
That's right. And you can wake up and make up your mind. I'm going to have a good day today.
That's
I'm going
right.
to be happy. I'm going to be
That's
positive.
right.
But I
That's
relate to
right.
that part about I've had a few people in my life that I determined were toxic for me. They might not be
Yes.
toxic for somebody else,
Yeah.
but it was just a downer every
Yeah.
time I spent time with them, and I just kind of went a different direction.
And you don't have to take on that baggage. You have that choice. We have choices in life. And when I talk to people about diabetes, there's two roads that you can go down. You can continue on the lifestyle path that you're on and go down the road of diabetes and all the comorbidities or associated health problems, or you can turn around, make some small changes, and prevent type 2 diabetes and live longer, healthier, and happier. So the choice is yours.
And you and I both, as you said, we have our faith.
Yes.
And that gets us through a lot of
Absolutely.
difficulties. We have about 2 minutes left.
Oh, my goodness.
So what would you want to tell my viewers that I haven't given you a chance to say?
You know what? We covered a lot, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah. I just want the viewers to know that, you know what? Your health is your greatest wealth. Make it a priority. Choose to be healthy. Start small. Small changes equal significant health rewards. There is help out there, whether it's for mental health, whether it's for chronic disease, whether it's weight loss, smoking, all of those things. There's help. Don't be afraid to reach out and get the help that they need. Because you know what? Life is so short, as we both know. And so we want to live our best life today. So.
Well, and I think people need to find what works for them, because I know
Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
I don't do my exercising or my walk in the morning, I'm going to get too busy and I won't get back to it. And the same way with reading
Yeah.
my Bible. I try to get that done in the morning, and my days are better because of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a really important point that you brought up. It has to fit into your life. So the things that you can do to make your life healthier have to fit into your life, financially and time-wise and everything else. So, you know, there is a way. There is a will.
But it's
there
not
is a
like
way.
everybody has to be a morning person.
No.
If it were, some people it works better to stay up late at night and get up when
Absolutely.
the house is quiet or whatever.
As long as they do it,
Right.
that's the important thing.
Well, we've learned a lot from you, Scherrie, and I'm not surprised because I've known you for a long time, and that's the way you are.
Well, thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
sharing, for being here.
Oh, I
And-
love coming here. Thank you for having me. I love it.
Well,
Thank you.
keep up the good work, and hopefully you have a TV show that you were doing out of the Sterling
Yes,
cable
yes.
TV, and hopefully that'll be back on the air very soon.
And you'll be my guest. You'll
Oh,
be my
great.
first
Oh,
guest
I'll take-
as soon as it comes back on the air.
I'll take you up on that. Let
That's
me know.
awesome. I will
Okay.
definitely do that. Thanks so much, Barbara, for having
Thank
me.
you. And don't you go away out there, because I'll be right back with my next guest, Pastor Phil Sabula.